Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. This week, working on a project here in a tunnel that we're kind of taking that was out of production for a couple years and we're trying to bring it back. And one of the things, we had a lot of biomass in here that I didn't want to haul out. I've been in the process of planting stuff through it, letting it rot down. And now I'm at a point where what's left is I've scraped in and I've put into a center windrow here that I'm going to tarp, keep it very damp. I'm going to be applying Jadam microorganism solution plus the JLF fertilizer on it. Most of this stuff is pretty dried. There's not a lot of green to it. So what I'm going to be trying to do is kind of create a bit of a really moist anaerobic environment under here. And by using the JLF fertilizer, which has a low amount of nitrogen in it, but it has nitrogen in it, it's going to help feed the microbes. So I'll probably end up doing a couple of applications on this. And the idea is that by the time we get to late May, which will be time to plant our warm season stuff in here, we're either going to put melons in part of it and a winter squash on another part. But this will be rotted down enough that what I'll be left with will be a fraction of what we're seeing right here, so we can plant directly into it. And what I did is I laid drip lines on top of it to get a moisture level continuously on it. This is mostly, as you can tell, it's brown material, so there's very little green in it. So to say, oh, we're going to do sheet composting on the top is not exactly right. So what we're going to try to do here is use Jadam microorganism solution and a nitrogen Jadam liquid fertilizer that was made from grass and has maybe about 2 to 3% nitrogen in it, and put a couple of applications on this, pretty high strength. And what we're talking about is about a 1 to 10 or even less for the JMS. And we're going to be putting the JLF on at about a 1 to 100, right in that ratio in there. And we're going to give this guy a really good soaking. And we're going to use our Maze injector, which is right over here. And that's going to, we're going to mix the fertilizer in with the JMS and then just apply it directly. So it will not be that diluted. We're going to change the dilution ratio on the bottom of it. So that's 4 gallons of Jadam microorganism solution. To show you a picture of it, you can kind of take a look at it. And that is ready to go. It was done in a more cool environment. We were in the 50s during the day, and which means in here in the tunnel, I got maybe to 70, but it didn't stay at 70 very long because we had a lot of cloud cover. And then it got down into the 40s at night. So it was a pretty slow brew. This one took 4 days, and but it's ready to go. And we're going to do another brew this next week. We're supposed to get up into the 70s during the days on Tuesday and Wednesday. So we should be able to do a fairly fast brew with that one and apply that again. I'm looking at applying a JMS probably 3 or 4 times during the process of getting this thing ready for planting later in the summer, or actually spring. We're talking about planting in May. We're going to put again in here probably things like melons and winter squash and that sort of thing in the center row. On the outside, we're going to be planting our dried beans. And so I'm going to try to, maybe I won't go with the winter squash because that's really aggressive and spreading, but we can control things like the cucumbers and things like that. And then maybe even put some corn down in the back row of it. So the whole thing is I want to get this mass of stuff down to, a fraction of what it's standing at right now. I wetted it down really good yesterday, really gave it a good thorough soaking. And so now we're just going to be applying this, and then we're going to put a tarp over the top. It's an old silage tarp, and we're going to, put some bags around the side to kind of keep it pinned down the best we can. So it should stay dark. It should stay moist. Be able to run the drip irrigation a few times, just during to make certain that, the moisture level is staying in the windrow. And then, like I said, about every 4 or 5 days, we'll come back and we'll put, at least for the first 2 or 3 times, I may go to 4 times, but 3 times for sure, applying JMS on it. and just to try to get this, really jump started. I've never done this before, so I'm not really certain it's going to do anything at all. It may be that I just end up with a big old wet pile of brown stuff, in which case then I'm going to have to, use a lot more effort to kind of haul stuff out and, that sort of thing. But I'm hoping that that's not the case. So the only thing I got to do now is mix the stuff up, hook up my Maze injector, and we'll spray it down. Yeah, this batch has been brewing since Wednesday. Today is Sunday. It took longer than anticipated because we've actually been fairly cool down in the 40s at night and barely getting up to around 50 during the day. So you can see that the bubbles are kind of small, and but it's about, I'd say it's the max I'm going to get, because what I am getting a separation clear edge on part of this. And I think it's just ready to go. It's not going to get much better. So this one took 4 days. Now, this next week, we're going to be having much warmer temperatures for the first part of the week, but then we're going to drop right back down. So I'm thinking after I apply this batch, I'll make another batch tomorrow, which is Monday, and we're supposed to be in the 70s for Tuesday and Wednesday. And so it really should accelerate a lot better. And that batch should be ready to apply. I'm hoping if I do it Tuesday, start at Tuesday, that it'd be ready to apply by Thursday, which is a little on the fast side, but 4 or 5 days is probably good for in between, because we're going for decomposition on this stuff, so we really just want to kind of keep it juiced.
Okay, so what you see here is we're applying the JMS and the liquid fertilizer. We mixed it all in the same bucket. If you look at the orange bucket, the Homer bucket over there where I'm pointing, you can kind of see it. The material is going through the Maze injector, and it's being pulled from the bucket through the hose. And if you notice the bucket, what you can start to see is that there's a little bit of a brown ring. Well, that means that the material is actually going through and it's dropping, the levels dropping in the bucket. So at this point, what we're going to do is just, make sure we cover the entire row. All right, so what we've done now is we've covered the entire row, and you can kind of see now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to have to flush the system out since we're finished with it, but that we'll take care of that later. And the other thing is that we are going to do now is we're going to try to put a new tarp over the top of it. We're going to use that silage tarp that we were talking about. So the next step after this has been all soaked, which we have done here, is we just have to get that covering on top of it. All right, what you see here is this tarp here. You can see it's an old tarp, and it's a two-sided white on one side, black on the other. And it was a silage tarp, and we got it. It was 32 foot wide by 100 foot long. And you can kind of see that there's some rough spots to it, some cuts and holes and snags and things like this. So we've had this thing now for about probably 6 or 7 years, and so what I did is I took the tarp and I cut it into 4 pieces, each 16 foot by 50. I mean, you look at that big old gash right there, you can see that one. So what I'm going to be doing is the base of the windrow is about 4 foot wide, and the holes and stuff, and since it's 16 feet, I'm going to be able to more than double coat this, so I should be able to cover most of the holes. So at this point, I got it all rolled out, and you can kind of see I've more than double coated. I'd put more sandbags on the one side than the other. There's no real wind problem inside the tunnel or anything like that, so I'm not too worried about it flipping around. I'm just trying to make sure that it kind of has a good seal on one side for sure. And then what I'm going to do when I need to apply JMS in the future, I can just easily take the fewer sandbags off the one side, roll the tarp back to the other, and then wet it all down. So that way it's a lot easier to deal with, and I not have to move so many bags around. And we've got the entire length covered, and so that isn't, super airtight, but it should be pretty good. It's at least double, and in some spots triple covered. So it should, kind of keep most of the excess air out and keep the moisture in. And that's the whole idea with the fertilizers. We're trying to get the whole biology fertilizer thing, kind of to operate. And really, for the most part, pretty close to the soil. It's going to be anaerobic, and and probably the JMS will work actually really well in those conditions. So the injector worked really well, and there isn't anything more to do now at this point except just kind of, you know keep the material moist. That's why we left the drip lines underneath, so we can turn that on occasionally and make certain that we're adding additional water when we need to. And like I said earlier, we're going to try to coat it again with the same mixture at least 3 times, and that way we can, hopefully speed the whole process up. So the other side of the tunnel is where there isn't any refuse. We're going to have to get that started ready for planting too, because it is getting to the season where we're going to be starting to plant beans, both snap beans as well as our dried beans. So that's going to be the next project in here, I think. Um, Everything actually worked pretty well. And I think, when it really, we still have some weed issues that we're going to have to deal with, but the weed bank in here it's just going to be what it is, and we're going to constantly have to be battling that. Catch you on the next video.